Here's the template and measurements you'll need. Instructions on how to print them are on screen. Starting with the main body of the seaming tool, you'll take your side pieces and attach tabs to them. These tabs can be made out of thin cardboard, like from a cereal box, or you could use cardstock. These don't need to be measured, just make them a bit shorter than your pieces and wide enough to fold in half. You'll need tabs on the tops and bottom of each side piece. Now take your front panel and attach all the side pieces on like shown. You'll want the edges of the sides to line up with the edges of your front panel. If you're putting lights in, you'll want to only do the top and bottom side pieces on the inner portion of the frame. If you're not doing lights, you can go ahead and close off all four sides. Now, put that aside and grab the back panel. You'll need a piece of clear plastic. For this, I bought one of those 13x9 aluminum pans from the dollar store that come with the clear plastic lids. I cut out the centerpiece of the lid and glued it onto the inside of the back panel. This will be your glass. Now, back to the front panel, we'll add the lights. You can skip to this time code if you're not doing the lights. To put the lights in, I just taped them to the inside of the frame. You can use glue, but I would suggest avoiding hot glue. After that, I glued a strip of cardboard over the top of the lights like shown, to hide the wires and to give a place to glue on our fake light bulbs later on. You want to make sure the sides are still left open to let the light come through though. Before gluing on the back window, I suggest painting the top and bottom inside panels. It's easier to paint them now so you don't have to worry about getting paint on the plastic. I talk about the paint shades towards the end of this tutorial. I left the battery pack outside of the frame, being careful not to get glue on the wire as I glued on this back panel. Onto the handle, we'll start with the connecting part, which is part of the template I provided. I do want to note my pieces here are actually cut wrong. The left and right sides you should have will be much shorter, and you'll see why a little later on when I fix mine. You'll put tabs on your side pieces just like earlier and line up the edges as you glue them on. But do not glue on the front panel yet, you want to leave this open. Once the sides are attached, put this aside and we'll move on to the main part of the handle. For the actual, handle part, I'm using a cardboard tube from a foil container since they are slimmer but also stronger than paper towel tubes. From the top of the tube, I cut small sections out of the sides to make two flaps. These flaps will lay flat to be glued inside the connector piece that we just made. The size of these cuts depends upon the exact size of the tube you're using. You'll want each flap to be the same width and length as the inside of the connector part. Once done, you'll glue them together like shown here. I found it helpful to tape the front flap out of the way while the back one is being glued in place. Then you'll glue the other flap first to the underside of the tabs, and then apply enough glue to the front panel of the connector to glue onto both the tabs and the front flap of the connector. I also used a pencil once the top part was on to make sure that the flap was connecting to the top section. Once that's dry, you should have a handle that looks like this. This should fit snug around the frame, and to attach it, you'll apply glue to the inside, top, and back of the connector and slide it into place. You'll likely need to hold it in place for a few moments while the glue sets to make sure it doesn't shift or anything. Once done, an optional step is to cover some of the seams along your piece with masking tape. This will make it look a lot cleaner and less like a cardboard creation once you've painted it. Now obviously here there's a massive jump in the footage. Don't worry, we'll go back, but I had originally forgot this step while I was filming, but I wanted to put it here so we're not jumping around. You'll want to stuff the handle with newspaper or notebook paper. The more compact the paper is, the stronger the handle will be, and so use as much as possible, but also be careful not to overstuff it so you don't cause any damage. Once finished, close up the end with a circle of cardboard and optional masking tape. For the cylinders around the frame, I used 1/3 of a paper towel tube and then cut up another foil tube into 6 pieces and closed up all the ends. To close the ends here, I only used tape, but if you expect this prop to get a lot of use, like at cons, I would suggest using cardboard circles and tape as a more durable option. If you're using lights, leave the right side of the large cylinder open. Glue the first large cylinder onto the top left of the seeing tool. Then, glue the battery pack inside of it. Then you can glue on your 6 small cylinders onto the frame, 3 on each side. For the switch, to get the shape right, I suggest foam clay. You can get small packs at almost any dollar store, which should be enough for this project. If you don't want to use foam clay, you could make the shape out of cardboard. It will slightly differ, though, from the in-game design. And this should be glued to the top right of the frame. There are a few more pieces you'll need, but we'll get to those after painting. Your paint, you'll want a light and dark shade of a brownish, yellowish color. Obviously, like the colors they use in Bendy and the Ink Machine, which is very like 2-3 tones or whatever. If you have the ability to use acrylic paints made for artists, that will help you get a more vibrant color match. My color was made with cheap craft paint, which is the most accessible, but it doesn't get you a perfect color match. So if you've seen my green screen videos of it, I did do like a yellow overlay over the footage to actually make it match. Mine is slightly more pale, but no matter which colors you use, I do highly recommend a base coat of white first. Otherwise, your colors will be muted, or if you're using the craft paint, even more muted. For this last big detail, you'll need one strip of thin cardboard that is a little thinner than your paper towel tube, and ideally should be long enough to glue onto the underside of the frame like shown, and then wrap around this tube, and then glue onto the bottom top portion of the frame in the back. Now for my favorite part of this, is taking permanent marker and a pen to scribble on the edges and the designs to make everything look hand-drawn. This is also the time I drew on the handle details. I couldn't find a good way to replicate them with cardboard, so I kept them 2D and just glued them on with permanent marker. Once that's done, you'll need all the pieces for the hardware around the corners. These should be painted the darker shade, and for the light bulbs, I have a couple options. We'll get to that in a moment. The ones you see here, I had to change. For the hardware, I suggest making them out of a thicker cardboard if you want to make sure they don't get damaged. I used thinner stuff here due to it being the easiest, and since I don't have a ton of chances to go to cons, this will most likely just sit in my room as decoration. Once they are cut out and painted, you'll glue them on like shown. The final detail is the light bulbs. You can do these one of 2 ways. If you actually want them to have light shine through them, you can cut them out of the same plastic that we used for the glass, and color them with permanent markers like I did when I made Monty Gator's purple sunglasses out of the same plastic. You'll want a few layers switching sides to get a good solid color that doesn't look like you just scribbled marker on it. But I didn't have the right color Sharpies, so for this, what you saw a little bit ago, I tried to use glue and paint, thinking it might not peel off, but spoiler alert, it peeled off. So I ended up using leftover foam clay to make my light bulbs and then glue them into place. And now you're done! Hope you liked this tutorial, many more are on the way, and I should hopefully be getting back to my normal content schedule soon. Thank you.